You are already aware of the ethanol story. The government called it a win for energy security and farmers. But there's a problem nobody planned for. India now makes more ethanol than its cars can use. And the surplus is about to hit your wallet in a way you didn't see coming. Your plane tickets. Right now, oil companies pay a fixed price to buy ethanol set by the government. For ethanol made from maize, that price is 72 rupees per liter. It doesn't move with the market. It only gets revised occasionally. That price is what pulled maize into the ethanol business in the first place. In 2022, distilleries used about 1 million tons of maize for ethanol. A year later, that jumped to 7 million tons. Suddenly, ethanol plants were bidding against poultry farms for the same grain. Maize prices spiked, farmers made good money, and everyone called it a success story. Then, it flipped. Maize production kept climbing, hitting record highs. But storage infrastructure didn't keep up. Farmers couldn't hold their grain and wait for a better price. They had to sell at harvest, good year or bad. At the same time, distilleries found a cheaper option. Government rice, sold off from surplus stock, made more ethanol per ton than maize did. So ethanol makers leaned into rice instead. Demand for maize dropped. The result, maize prices fell hard, dropping more than 20% below the government's own support price. Exports to neighboring countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh and Nepal have since pulled the surplus down and lifted the price back up. But the price is still below the government's own MSP of 2410 rupees a quintal. And here's the part that stings. There is no law forcing the distilleries to actually pay farmers that support price. It's a target, not a guarantee. So when maize gets cheap, distilleries buy it cheap. Their fixed selling price to the oil companies doesn't change. Their margins just get better. Nobody passes those savings back down the chain. State governments and the central government have spent the last year blaming each other over this. Meanwhile, the ethanol industry itself has a different problem. It built enough capacity to hit 20% blending target, and then some more. There's simply more ethanol available than petrol demand can absorb. The oversupply is now showing up at the pump. The Odisha Petroleum Dealers Association has asked government to reconsider E20, not just because of clogged engines and angry customers, but because dealers say OMCs promised to revise their margins every 6 months back in 2024, and that hasn't happened either. So they are stuck absorbing the complaints with no extra cut to show for it. The fight even reached Supreme Court, where the media reports claimed the government's own lawyers called the ethanol blending an experiment whose results are still coming in, which the government has since officially denied, calling those reports false. But none of this pushback has slowed the ethanol coming out of distilleries. The surplus is still there, so the government has been hunting for new places to dump it. Trucks were one answer, planes are next, and this isn't just talk anymore. The Road Transport Ministry has said a mandate for blending a related fuel, isobutanol, into diesel could come before the end of this year, and this one could matter even more than the petrol did, because diesel consumption in India is almost double that of petrol. But planes are the bigger story. If you have seen my this video, you already know the problem they are trying to solve here. A barrel of crude doesn't let a refinery just pick what to make. Crack it open and you get a fixed mix. Petrol, diesel, jet fuel and more, all in roughly the same proportions every time. If you want more jet fuel, you don't just make more jet fuel. You have to refine more crude overall and produce more of everything else along with it. That's exactly why ethanol-based jet fuel is appealing to India right now. In April 2026, the government amended its aviation fuel rules to formally allow ethanol to be converted into jet fuel through something called the alcohol to jet pathway. Chemically, it turns ethanol into a hydrocarbon chain that behaves like a regular jet fuel. The appeal is simple. It skips the crude barrel problem entirely. India imports 87% of its crude oil. Making more jet fuel the normal way means importing more crude. Making it from leftover ethanol means using a fuel that's already sitting in surplus, domestically produced, and no extra barrels required. India targets a small start, 1% of jet fuel blended with sustainable fuel by 2027, rising to 5% by 2030 for international flights. Now here is the good news. This isn't like ethanol in petrol, where you pay the same price and lose mileage. Mano ya na mano. Jet fuel made this way doesn't lose performance. It's built to match regular jet fuel exactly. The problem is the price tag. Sustainable aviation fuel costs 2 to 5 times more to produce than regular jet fuel. You heard it right. Not 2 to 5%, 2 to 5 times. That is exactly why pure SAF, 100% of it, barely exists in any tank right now. It is too expensive to run at full strength, so airlines blend in just a small percentage instead, enough to hit the mandate without blowing up their costs. Even at these low blend levels, it still shows up on your ticket. Long-haul flights could see close to a 6% markup because of SAF, while short-haul flights could see something close to a 2% increase. Now, I don't have enough data yet on how the isobutanol and diesel mandate will actually play out, but here is what one can confirm. This exact playbook, mandate first and worry about the supply later, is already causing problems everywhere else it's been tried. Europe mandated SAF starting last year, and airlines are already paying billions extra for fuel that still barely exists at a scale. Indonesia doing the same with palm oil and biodiesel, and it's driving cooking oil prices back home. So if history is any guide, India's SAF push is heading somewhere very familiar. If you want the full picture on why ethanol can't solve the crude import problem economically, watch this video next.